All throughout my other documentaries, I have not denied who is my guide. He has warned me to warn you that the Antichrist is here, the false prophet is here, and the four headless horsemen of the apocalypse are also here. We are now back in the times of the Hebrew, the descendants of Adam and Eve, as you know them, but they are Isis and Osiris in the world of the occult. This is the world that guides world leaders, especially America. He also warned that they would proselytize you, and they now have, because many of you, especially the British and American people, think like them. Even after witnessing what your governments did to the Iraqis, you are allowing their reign of terror to continue, and it's soon to get much, much worse, far worse than you could ever imagine. They accused Jesus, my guide, of being a liar and making false accusations against them, but the world has been fooled to follow the theories of four children of hell and their science. Theorist, supposition, explaining something, generalization, explaining phenomena of assumed natural causes, a speculative idea of something, mere hypothesis, speculative supposition, to accept as probable, to surmise, to lay down without proof, to assume by way of argument or illustration, to imagine, to believe. I have proved many of the prophecies of Jesus. The world is now in the midst of the book of Revelations. Because the world was denied the truth of Jesus, we are now back in the times of the Hebrew, a time of war, hatred, racialism and revenge, sickness and disease. Just look at the two nations, Britain and America, and now they have spread their ideology around the world. The Iraq war was your last warning.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations.
Kennedy forgot to mention religion. Jesus spoke out against their religion when he taught his followers, do not be like the hypocrites that go to synagogues and stand on street corners so that they can be seen by men. He also prophesized many things that are now unfolding in the world around you. I know because he is my guide and I communicate with his spirit.
Gesù è uno spirito. Gesù non è uno spirito. Gesù è una persona, è un uomo.
The Pope denounced Jesus as a spirit, which denounces him as the Son of God, the creator of all the good and the highest intelligent life force. He is soon to sign a concordat, which is a treaty between a pope and a secular government. That government is America. On September the 10th, 1993, an Italian newspaper, La Stampa, revealed that one of the unwritten clauses of the DOP was the PLO assent to a deal brokered between Foreign Minister Shimon Peres and the Pope. Peres promised the Vatican hegemony leadership over the old city of Jerusalem by the end of 2000. This story was confirmed by the Israeli newspapers Shizi and Haaretz and radio station Aruch Sheva. America signed over Jerusalem to Israel and the Vatican were given hegemony, and this Pope is going to proselytize all of you. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites, for you traverse sea and land to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. Just because someone was born in your country and has the same accent as you, doesn't mean they are one of you, or have the same intentions. Proselyte, a new convert to some religion, party or system, especially a gentle convert to Judaism, and secularism has its roots in Judaism. Secularism was founded by George Jacob Holyoake, who was Jewish and he was editor of the atheist paper Oracle of Reason. An atheist is a non-believer, and this is what secularism is, and soon they will try to make the whole world like them, a proselyte, which in modern times is a secularist. Secular, of or relating to the present world or things not spiritual or sacred, not ecclesiastical or monastic, not concerned with religion. This doesn't really sound like Jesus has taken to these people or that they have changed. They now teach science in all schools, and Isaac the Blind, a French Jew, brought modern science to the Western world, the head of the British and now American Empire and European Union. It's now in the control of Codex Alimentarius, which means food code. Kabbalah, a secret science of the Jewish rabbis, to interpret the hidden meaning of the Pentateuch. They are the first 5 books of the Old Testament. Esoteric doctrine, occult doctrine. Occult is a supernatural, magical, mystical, beyond the range of ordinary knowledge of perception. Religion is the belief in a superhuman being or beings. Jesus spoke out against Pharisees and Sadducees. Sadducee means a member of a sect among the Jews arising in the 2nd century BC, who adhered to the written law to the exclusion of tradition and denied the resurrection from the dead, existence of spirits, etc. When you understand the occult, the 2nd century BC was the same time the book of black magic, the Golden Ass, about the mysteries of Isis, was also revealed to the world. This pope is a Sadducee pope, a deceiver, a false pope. I know what they are doing because I receive my knowledge beyond the range of ordinary knowledge of perception also from the Spirit of Jesus. And I can assure all of you he does exist and has been there for you always, but you were tricked to deny him. When science tricks you there are no cures, you instantly deny his message because he was a healer and is the guide of all truth seekers and healers. And now you just heard religion denying him. That is because, as he is teaching me to warn you all, religion and science comes from the mind of the devil. The spirit world is now protecting us, but our own kind, America, is controlling the weather with HAARP and causing all wars with their lies. The Iraq War was the cause of the Third World War. It is the catalyst of this war that we are now in. America is now looking for an excuse to take it nuclear. They must be stopped, and the easiest way is never to listen to them again. This is also the case for this individual, and following his lead will soon see us descend into all-out nuclear war. They lied and got 1 million innocent Iraqis killed, and straight after went after Russia, then China, and now North Korea. The American government have always spoken for the one with the forked tongue, and I hope you understand this warning. Look at the word trump. Number 2 says a trumpet. Last trump of trump, whence trumper, to play on the trumpet, to deceive. This man is the voice box for the devil, and the entire British, French and American establishments are the same. As Arthur Ponsonby, the author of a brilliant book that teaches the truth about the First World War, once said, to fill the mind with hatred by means of lies is a greater evil than the actual loss of life, because the defilement of the mind and soul is worse than the destruction of the human body. The mind was meant to be the main message of Jesus. That is why he taught, your salvation is not to be sought in the external environment, but within the individual state of mind with regard to the environment. Your thoughts are chemical messengers from within. They are made up of elements within you. And when you are full of elements of the devil, many can be tricked to commit evil like murder, as Cain did to his brother. His parents, Adam and Eve, carried on eating forbidden fruits. And all fruits are made up of chemicals, and you are made up of chemicals, and so are the forbidden fruits. The apple is a solid version of the liquid alcohol, and when flooded into the body, the mind can be drastically altered, and you alter the mind by altering the chemicals of the body. All the leaders of the ancient world and now the modern world imbibe the smoke of the devil. drugs that he creates. That is why both sides of the British establishment hold drug-fueled homosexual orgies, and they lied and massacred 1 million Iraqis, as their ancestors, the Hebrew, did in the Old Testament. The Hebrew honoured and worshipped the crucified serpent, and this is the guide of all alchemists, the controllers of modern science. The warnings in the Bible teach who this entity is. It is why Jesus also warned, for the fight is not against human foe, but against cosmic powers, superhuman forces of evil. These are the forces guiding America, brought to the West by the executioners of Jesus. This is the guide of science that is tricking our world with the reptilian brain theory. Our world is controlled by the power of belief, as Jesus also taught us, when he said, "Therefore I say unto you, whatever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you will receive them, and you shall have them." But we have now been tricked to follow the descendants of his executioners, because of words like coincidence, or sayings like history repeats itself. Darwin teaches that after many generations, even thousands, species revert back to origin, and that is why one group of people have the belief of their ancestors. I will now show you why Jesus called them children of hell, using the system that they use to control you, their own science, and this will reveal who they are and what they intend to do. Darwin teaches it is very difficult to differentiate from a species and a variety. A variety is a descendant of one type, and Jesus warned us that one group of people were descendants of hell and what they would do. I will now read from this book the words of Darwin. No doubt it is a very surprising fact that characters should reappear after having been lost for many, probably hundreds of generations. But when a breed has been crossed only once by some other breed, the offspring, which means children, occasionally show for many generations a tendency to revert in character to the foreign blood. Some say for a dozen or even score of generations. After 12 generations, the proportion of the blood, to use a common expression, from one ancestor is only 1 in 2048, and yet as we see, it is generally believed that a tendency to reversion is retained by this remnant of foreign blood. In a breed which has not been crossed, but in which both parents have lost some character with their progenitor, which means an ancestor in the direct line, a forefather, a parent, possess the tendency, whether strong or weak, to produce the lost character, might, as we formerly remarked, for all that we can see to the contrary, be transmitted from almost any number of generations. When a character which has been lost in a breed reappears after a great number of generations, the most probable hypothesis is not that one individual suddenly takes after an ancestor removed by some 100 generations, but that in each successive generation the character in question has been lying latent, and at last, under unknown favourable conditions, is developed. With the bar pigeon, for instance, which very rarely produces a blue bird, it is probable that there is a latent tendency in each generation to produce the blue plumage. The abstract improbability of such a tendency being transmitted through a vast number of generations is not greater than that of quite useless or rudimentary organs being similarly transmitted. A mere tendency to produce rudiment is indeed sometimes thus inherited, which means partially developed, aborted, or stunted organs. The recent Zika virus proves the theory of inheritance utterly untrue, because the shrunken skull and brain was not inherited, it was caused by a virus, and there are many examples, but science chooses to deny them. Caffeine can damage DNA and cause abnormal DNA by inhibiting the DNA repair mechanism. Caffeine has been shown to cause genetic defects in plants and animals, and even by the teachings of their own science that we are made up of the same elements as everything around us proves that if it affects the plants of nature and the other creatures, it will affect us. They continue to lie about sugar, and the world still believes their diatribe. This picture shows smoke gets into the baby in the womb, and this will teach that what it does to the mother, it will do to the child. They are made of the same elements. Even a child can see this theory is true. Darwin also says that it has never been known for a species to revert back to the foreign blood, and the reason the world hasn't reverted back to the highest intelligent life forces that we all once were, who could think for themselves, is because one group of people now control all the foods again, and education, religion and science, and they keep the foreign blood within them. Sugar is the clearest example from the apple and all fruits. They have always controlled sugar, and that is why they now have flooded it into all your foods. Sugar feeds yeast and causes it to flourish and invade your brain. That is how they will prove their reptilian brain theory. But to the wise amongst you, it will prove why you were warned not to eat the apple and the bread. They both contained yeast. But you were offered these at the altar. The wine is made of sugar, and the bread contained yeast. Yeast is a mini snake, so therefore you will always have the blood of the devil within you, and now it's going to get worse with their vaccinations. Religion and science originate in the Kabbalah, the demonic worshipping cult of the Hebrew, the esoteric, supernatural, magical, mystical science of the rabbi. This religion and science was brought to our world by Moses, a controller of supernatural forces, which means existing by or due to exercising powers above the usual forces of nature, outside the fear of natural law. Hebrew honour and revere Moses, and Jesus came to warn the world of what their descendants, the Pharisees and Sadducees, were. He spoke out against the Old Testament, and he was teaching us what they intend to do. Your intentions are driven by your desires, and your desires are controlled by the elements around you, the forces around you. These people have now become Freemasons, the founders of modern science. Britain, France and America, and now the European Union, are in their control, and the Pope is one of them. Once again, read what he says.
Gesù è uno spirito. Gesù non è uno spirito. Gesù è una persona, è un uomo.
So is this Pope saying that the forces that guides the Hebrew is higher than the force that guided Jesus, who came to teach of how to achieve peace, love, harmony, health and happiness? Is he saying that the force that guided Moses to destroy many races of people, as Deuteronomy in the Bible teaches, is the force that we should be following, the force that is now guiding America? He also said he agreed with some of Darwin's evolution theory. Which part? Because Darwin teaches that we all come from one source, and that includes all the reptiles, which includes all the snakes. The story in the Bible, a book he would have read many times, warns us of the serpent, one of many shape-shifting forms of the devil. Darwin emphasizes that although species vary, no instance will ever be found of an important part varying, but under any other point of view, many instances can assuredly be given. There is one point connected, which individual differences, which is extremely perplexing. I refer to those genera which have been called protean or polymorphic, in which species present an inordinate amount of variation, which is shape-shifting. Protean, readily assuming different shapes or aspects, variable, changeable. Darwin speaks of blind Proteus with reference to the reptiles of Europe. All my documentaries teach that science and religion come from the Kabbalah, and that Isaac the Blind brought their experiments to the West with him, and many ancient people speak of a reptilian race, and many other people speak of the reptile while under the influence of hallucinatory drugs. Jesus taught the world they were children of the devil, the serpent. They are the children of the shape-shifting cosmic serpent, the reptile, and they descended from bacteria, not us, as they are teaching. Science is now also teaching that you are made up of bacteria. This is also a lie, and they have only decided to teach you that you are made up of the same elements as the world around you, because they have been allowed to defile everything. You via your foods and drinks, especially the water, the earth and the atmosphere. Proteus, changeable, shifty or fickle person or thing, a member of the genus Proteus of bacteria found in animal intestines. Latin and Greek, a marine deity, Neptune's herdsman, who had the power to change his shape at will. Genus means a class, group, or order, or family. The way of the world proves Darwin's theory and the theory of Jesus that there are children of two gods, as the book of Black Magic, the Golden Ass, teaches, the god of the underworld and the god of the upper world. Jesus was right, they are children of the other god, and Darwin was also right. They have reverted back to their origin, and that is why the world is full of liars, cheats, murderers, deceivers, and money worshippers, children of the devil, as Jesus called them, as it was in the times of the Old Testament, when their ancestors controlled the world. But the small-minded amongst us believe that history repeats itself, and they follow Darwin, and even his theory proves that species or people repeat history because they revert back to origins. One group of people revert back to their origin, the children of hell, and how the world was fooled to accept the murderers of my God is beyond me. How very, very small-minded they have made many of you. Thank God that someone is keeping an eye on you and one on them, but you must listen to people like me very, very fast. These people believe that the law protects them to poison your foods and cause all manner of disease, as the apple first caused cancer. And this headline shows that there has now been a study which suggests most of their cancer drugs may be useless. It said that they have misled people and give them false hope. You see, religion tricks you that following them will give you hope. But as I have proven on many of my other documentaries, the Vatican know of a cure for cancer because the physician to John Paul II tested the claims of Dr. Holder Clark and discovered they cured cancer.
We are helping people to heal by cancer. Yes, we have several people utilizing the principle by Dr. Clark.
It is as I keep teaching, one group of people brought you religion and your science to the Western world. Their religion said they were followers of the Saviour, and now they keep teaching you that Jesus was one of us. And their science tricks you that it was to be the Saviour of the modern world. These people have changed their religion from Kabbalism to Judaism, as it was in Jesus' time, and as he warned us, they are now to proselytise you, which is now secularism, so they will secularize you. They have been communists, socialists, and now capitalists in your government, but they are all of one group of people, the children of the devil, and are guided by his will. It seems there are microscopic shapeshifters, Proteus, macroscopic or human forms of shapeshifters, and in the spirit world the cosmic serpent, one of many forms of the lying, cheating, murdering devil, as Jesus warned us. The truth will never change, but it will change people, especially when they stop listening to liars, the children of the devil. Yeast is a mini version of its creator, a shapeshifter. Jesus warned his followers to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. He also warned the world when he said, John chapter 8, verse 44, "You are of your father the devil, and your will is to your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God." It must be obvious who he is referring to, because we recently had the Iraq War, lies of America and Britain and France. We recently had the worldwide recession caused by American banks, and we have now had the poisoning of the food chain by American food companies, as it always has been throughout history. Britain, France, America, and now the European Union have always been in the control of children of hell. You must rise up, otherwise they will soon destroy you. America is about to take our world into a nuclear war. They have a machine, HARP, that can control every computer on Earth, every aeroplane computer, or every computer that controls all nuclear weapons. I hope you now understand who their guide is, and for your sake you believe who my guide is. Do not eat meat this Christmas, because it might be your last.
My name is Sergeant Rick Schiff. I'm an 11-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department. I hold the department's highest Medal of Honor for bravery. That used to mean a lot more to me than it does now. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my now 7-year-old daughter. This is an identical twin. Her sister is now dead. Her sister, when she was 4 years old, Kristen, developed a highly malignant brain tumor that had spread throughout her spine and her brain. The doctors told us that we had really two options: take her home, let her die, or bring her in for massive dosages of chemo and radiation simultaneously. In either event, she was going to die. They were quite certain of that, and very quickly. Believing her only chance to be the standard route, we gave her the chemo and radiation. It burned her skull so bad she had second-degree burns and her hair never came back. To change her diapers, we had to wear rubber gloves because her urine was so toxic and it burned her. At the end of 6 months, miraculously, she survived the standard treatment, although there was a high expectation she wouldn't. She still had cancer. We were told, sorry, we've done everything we can. Now she's going to die, probably within a couple of months. My wife and I, choosing not to accept that, started reading. The first book I picked up, the 3rd chapter, discussed Dr. Brzezinski. As you may guess, I have some expertise in fraud. In fact, I'm quite certain there are enough attorneys in the room that I could be vordeered as an expert in fraud. And I conducted my own investigation. I have no doubt the man is not a fraud. I have no doubt that he does what he does out of earnest belief that his medicine works. And now you're in a position to judge for yourselves whether it works or not. But it's well established by the FDA that it's non-toxic. 18 months later, we took my daughter off the anti-neoplastin. She had not died. She had no signs of tumor. She remained free for 18 months of cancer. Within a month, the cancer was widespread in her brain. We put her back on Brzezinski's. By the way, at the objections of our doctors, for some reason felt that it had failed her. We put her back on. Within 9 weeks, the tumor was completely gone. She died last July of neurological necrosis. Her brain fell apart from the radiation. The autopsy showed that she was completely cancer-free. Out of 52 cases of that disease ever, no one died cancer-free, just Chrissy. So she didn't die of a terminal illness. She died of my inability to care for her properly, and she died from bad advice. She died because there's a government institution that disseminates false information and is not looking out for the welfare of the people. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another, to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
We are helping people to heal by cancer. Yes, we have several people utilizing the principle by Dottoressa Clark.
Gesù è uno spirito. Gesù non è uno spirito. Gesù è una persona, è un uomo.